Welcome to this week's episode, guys. To the man in front of us, take it away. Tell our viewers your name, where you're from, a little bit about yourself.
Hello, boys. Nice to have met you as well. Welcome to my home. I am George Dimitriou Gagoulis. I come from Lacha, village next door, and decided to live in the country. That's why you see us here out in the country. I grew up in this little village here and moved to London when I was 20 to study automobile engineering. Stayed there for 20 years, finished my studies, got a job, then had my own business, and ended up back in Cyprus.
So, George, tell us. You went to study. Tell us how you got involved in cars. Was it from a young age something that you were always passionate about? Was it a family thing? How did that happen?
I had an uncle who was a mechanic, and I used to run around the garage. And at 12, I started to work there and earn 10 shillings a week, believe it or not. But it was very enjoyable. So yes, I started very, very young. Before that, I was fixing bicycles and whatever was on wheels.
So it's become a lifelong passion, and specifically today we came and we've come to know you from the red car that's behind you. We've seen it at a couple of shows. It piqued our interest specifically when looking into the engine bay. I know it's not particularly a short story where the car came from and your story involved with it, but take us a little bit through your journey with the Morris Minor from the beginning up till the present day.
The Morris Minor story started in London, of course. I had a garage in London and I did strictly car electrics. Starters, alternators, dynamos, alarms, car radios and all that. But I had a friend, college mate, who used to come to the garage and he kept on saying to me, come on, let's do some old cars, And I was repeating Volkswagen Beetle, Porsche engine. He said, no, Morris Minor. He won in the end. So we went and bought our first Morris Minor convertible. Believe it or not, by the time we arrived at the garage, the doors wouldn't open. The car collapsed. So the beginning of an era started by trying to rebuild a convertible Morris Minor that collapsed. That's how it all started. In my head, I always had modification. That was my thing. That's what made me enjoy being with cars. So we started to repair the convertible. We finished welding the whole floor pan, about 30 pieces of it. We closed the doors, we were very happy, and we went home. Came back the next day, and the doors wouldn't open. No, the doors wouldn't close. The car opened up a gap of about 8 to 10 centimeters on the top of the doors. You can imagine. Due to the heat of the welding, when the car cooled down, it opened up. Beginning and end of the Morris Minor era was a convertible. Hope to be a convertible as well. Once that car was finished, we started to get a few people asking, do you do Morris Minors? We bought another one, and another, and they were all painted red and parked outside the garage. Nick went and brought a 1300 engine, automatic. We put it in the convertible, everything was working all right. And while we were at it, I bought a V4 Corsair, which I fitted in my one. From that, we went to V6, to Rover V8 in that same shell. And eventually, I was running a V8 automatic, Morris Minor, full MOT, everything. And now what? A six-wheeler. And the idea of a six-wheeler started with a Morris Minor Traveler. We cut two, we put them together, MOT, and that continued until we made a pickup truck with six wheels, then a breakdown truck with six wheels, and I started to modify Morris Minors to sell to different people with a Fiat engine. Start with a small Fiat engine, a bigger one, a 2-liter, a 2.1. And that became a whole philosophy of Morris Minors. The company was, a new company was named Mania Limited. And that went on for 15, 16 years. When I sold the company and came back to Cyprus. Coming back to Cyprus, I brought with me all the stuff I needed to make another one, of course. The result of that is the U201.
It's a beautiful car, and we've seen it static, and that was the first thing that drew us in the first time that we saw it, the engine, because we saw Abarth on top of the top of the valve cover, and we thought, what's this? This has got to be interesting, because anybody that's been in motorsport for a while knows that Abarth, as most of today's generation, isn't the Abarth that the true petrol heads know it as from 20, 30, 40 years ago. And we've seen you tearing through tracks with this car as well. That was the first time that we saw the car. About 15 minutes later, you were tearing down the track with it. And we realized just how fast it was. I mean, can you give us a little bit of an insight as to maybe how much horsepower the car makes, what kind of setup, suspension, that kind of stuff you've got on it?
Yeah, there's a lovely story about this engine. Somebody introduced me to Frank Rizzuti. Frank Rizzuti was living outside London, and he was specializing in Abarth engines and really Abarth cars. So I got hold of a second-hand engine. I went up there and I asked for Frank. At the time I was about 30, 31, and he was about 50. Yes? He says, I'm George, I'm the owner of Mania Limited in London. He looked at me. He said, I'm the guy with the 6-wheel pickup. It's outside if you want to see. Ah, George, Mania London. He knew from the 6-wheel. He said, what can I do for you? I said, I'm going to put it simply and straight. I would like an engine that I can win everybody's Santa Pod, few tracks as well, but Santa Pod especially, and my mother-in-law has to drive it to the supermarket the weekend. He laughed, of course, and he said, there's no such thing. So everybody's saying that you are God, you can make anything. He looked at me and he said, okay, leave it there, I see what I can do. And he created that, which cost at the time $2,500 for the engine and about $1,600 for inlet, carbs, and exhaust. So the whole thing was about $3,500 just for the engine. And that was in 1979-80, 1980.
Wow.
But he did a really brilliant job. That's that same engine, 1400cc block, 2-liter head with the rest.
Wow, and in the late 70s, just to give our viewers some kind of context, that around £4,000 was a crazy amount of money.
Of course.
I mean, you could buy new cars for half the amount of that.
You could buy a Ford Escort for about 2,000.
That's crazy. And is this the same engine that you have the record at Santa Pod with?
It's the same engine, has not been rebuilt. I only changed the big end bearings once, that's all. Okay, it does puff a bit of white smoke when I let go on the track, but it's okay. It doesn't drink any oil at all. But still a good engine. It's fully lightened and balanced. It's got raw rally camshafts, vernier gears. Now the vernier gears come off because we don't have the numbers of the camshafts, but we'll eventually put it back on. Have to find the profile of the camshafts. I don't remember anything about them, and I lost the papers, so Yeah, we're gonna have to find that out.
And we're talking, this engine's been running unopened for what, 40 plus years now then?
Yeah, roughly.
Old school engineering. And this is the same engine that I saw in that newspaper clipping does 0 to 60 in 6.5?
That's the one. Used to, I don't know if it still does. It certainly goes fast.
And yeah, and as I said to you at the time, 0 to 60 in 6.5 was a big deal, even 10, 15 years ago. New cars, I mean, a lot of cars came from the factory doing 6.5 second 0 to 60 sprints in the mid 2000s. So 40 years ago, that must have felt like a bullet.
Somebody saw the car and they passed the message over to Street Machine. And a guy from the Street Machine called me. Russell Smith was his name. George, I hear that you have a very special engine in a Morris Minor convertible. How about Saturday we drive to Peterborough, I load the car with all my machines, accelerator, meters and all that, and we do some tests. Russell came. I followed him to Peterborough, 120 miles from London, to an old factory, deserted factory, and there was a straight run there and up and down till he got the results. And he put them onto his article in Street Machine, which was a 4-page article at the time. Very impressive article. And the next day we took the car to Brands Hatch for a run. We did not compete. We just took part in a race of 12 cars, and we did very well. We finished 5th.
Wow, that's something. I mean, have you got any idea how much horsepower the car makes? Has it ever
At
been on
the
a
time,
dyno?
on Frank Rizzuti's rolling road, because then I bought my own rolling road, which I had another company which created only racing engines. On Frank Rizzuti's was 148 on the wheels.
Wow.
That was the first run. The only thing he had to change was the exhaust pipes to get the back pressure right. The rest was perfect because he dynoed the engine before he gave it to me. But on the car, things changed. I don't know what. He changed the exhaust, ran the car, 2 runs. He said, I'm happy with that, take it away.
Wow.
And we stayed friends for ages because he made a lot of engines for me after that, which I fitted into convertibles and I sold to the Scandinavians. I used to come and buy a car, 10 grand, full rebuild with engine, 2-liter standard engine, or 1600 depending on the customer, and they drove it away. MOT, tax, and go.
Wow. George, I mean, you've any questions that I've had, you more than answered them, and we've had some crazy history lessons out of you. I mean, I had one, but I'm going to add another one in as well because of something that you said just before we started recording. How many famous people did you know from around London, or should we say how many famous people knew you in and around London?
Yes, quite a lot of people at the time used to drive classic cars because I used to do a little MG midgets and MGBs, and a few. I had several Mark I, Mark II Jaguars myself in the beginning, and from that I used to get customers coming in. But yeah, quite a lot of actors. I had a lot of customers from the Playboy Club, a lot of girls from the Playboy Club that used to drive old Morris Minor convertibles. I had 6 of them. I had Pierce Plowright from BBC. We rebuilt the convertible for him. We had George Michael's normal cars, the singer, because I knew his dad very well. Yeah, from the Morris Minor, we attracted a lot of people. And now, very famous person, Tony Buxton, who does TV shows in England. Her mother happens to be my god sister. And Tonya was driving a red Morris Minor in London at that time when she was 20.
Wow. So, George, one final question from us. This is one question that with most people I have a good idea of maybe what they'll say, but with you I genuinely have no clue. If budget was no issue or anything like that, what would you have in your dream garage?
Shall I say more is mine? Or? I appreciate all cars in general, but matter of taste, for me would have been a Lancia Integrale. That is the car I loved all my life. Okay, I drove from driving on the tracks a few years. I drove other cars. The best car, the fastest car I drove was a Ferrari, full racing Ferrari. But for me, the Integrale was the car. Still is, if you can find one.
If you can find one, independent on the price. George, thank you so much for your time. We hope to catch up with you again soon. We appreciate it, and thank you so much for giving us some insight into quite a few years and quite a lot of crazy stories.
You are welcome, boys. Anytime.
Thank you.